And while we're riding in a Greyhound bus, we're seeing all the scenery in Comfort Plus.
If you had a TV in the past 50 years, then you probably remember these commercials.
No need to worry about driving when there's someone.
Or at least a very familiar slogan.
Greyhound and leave the driving to us.
America
Those ads are long gone. But now, buses are back. At a time when gas prices are soaring, train service is limited, and flying has become an expensive chore, the bus business is booming. After falling off for most of the last 5 decades, bus travel has gained ground since 2006, with more than 700 million passenger trips last year alone. The biggest jump is in what are called curbside bus operators, like Bolt Bus and Megabus, that load passengers on city streets as well as terminals, and take them between big cities, often for next to nothing. How much did you spend?
$15.
To go where?
From New York to Boston.
I think my ticket, I bought it a couple days in advance and it was like $9.50.
I'm embarrassed.
Tell me.
$1.50.
You paid $1.50 to send me from New York?
Yeah.
For many, it's just too good a deal to pass up. In 2011, a year that saw air travel up about 2 percentage points and train travel up 5, curbside bus trips shot up more than 30%. Clearly, the bus game has changed.
This is a story of America and some of the people along the way.
In the 1956 film Freedom Highway, produced by Greyhound no less,
I hear it's quite a country.
It is.
the bus looked more like a country club lounge, only somehow nicer.
The men who drive for Greyhound are proud they've made it the safest transportation in the land. It
was safe, but now, with more bus trips than ever, safety officials have their hands full keeping it that way. In March last year, more than a dozen died in a crash on I-95 near New York City, when a drowsy driver lost control and hit a signpost, cutting the bus nearly in half. Just days later, another bus crash on the New Jersey Turnpike left 2 dead. 2 months later, a crash in Virginia killed 4 people when their speeding bus rolled onto its roof. For federal regulators, scenes of horror like these were a wake-up call. Transportation Secretary Ray LaHood.
These crashes really pointed up to us that we needed to focus like a laser beam on these bus companies to make sure the buses are safe, mechanically okay, the bus drivers are well rested and properly licensed.
In May, the DOT shut down 26 bus companies for everything from bad drivers to bald tires. And the hunt for rule breakers is ongoing.
Where are you coming from?
Last month, the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration allowed our cameras along while they carried out random inspections at Boston's South Station bus terminal. This bus was starting to load passengers when DOT Inspector Patty Lavoie stepped in.
Hi, driver. I'm Patty Lavoie with the U.S. DOT. We're going to do an inspection on your bus. Here's my credentials. So if you can get back up on the bus, please.
They looked for leaks in the engine bay, checked treads and tire pressure, and to see if the windows will actually open in an emergency.
So you were off duty at noontime?
Yeah, and that's right.
They also go through the driver's logbook to make sure he's not driving longer than the legal limit. They found nothing wrong with this carrier, but in general, safety officials say driver logs are a trouble spot. Ann Farrow runs the FMCSA.
We believe those logbooks provide too many opportunities for falsification because, again, it's a paper book.
Right. What's to prevent a driver from literally carrying 2 sets of books?
The solution is an electronic log, much like an electronic timesheet, an electronic log that ties into the engine of the bus, that identifies whenever that bus is moving, whenever it's being operated by that driver beyond their limits.
Farrow says electronic driver logs could be on buses as early as next year. Beyond catching sleepy drivers, there are other ways to make bus travel safer. At Penn State's Larson Institute, researchers, working with both private and federal agencies, put just about every kind of bus sold in the U.S. through a brutal battery of tests. from big motor coaches to those little airport shuttles. And where else would you see this? A New York City bus rolling past a dairy farm on a road designed to mimic the bone-jarring streets of Manhattan. Dave Klinikowski runs the bus program.
The point is that not all buses hold up that well. We've had buses that cannot complete the program or leave the program on a truck because they've fallen apart.
So they do make them and you do break them?
We do break them sometimes, yes.
And down the road, buses could get sturdier. Under new federal law, bus companies will look at ways to make roofs less likely to crush, windows less likely to shatter. Some new buses, like this Greyhound model, already come with seat belts, but there's no new rule for belts in buses already on the road. Pennsylvania Congressman Bill Schuster helped draft the new law. In doing our research for this, back in it was like 64 or 68, the National Transportation Safety Board made an urgent recommendation to put seatbelts in buses.
Sure.
And here we are over 40 years later and no seatbelts.
Well, what we've seen in a very safe bus industry, motor coach industry today, they are moving towards with their new buses getting seatbelts on, but to retrofit them costs thousands of dollars, and the cost benefit is just not there.
But the retrofitting is what bothers you because of the cost?
Well, it's a huge cost. I used to have that number off the top of my head, but it's several thousands of dollars for each bus. And what you have out here are small business owners that run a very safe business, 99% of them, and we're going to have the federal government come in and mandate something that is probably not going to save any more lives.
So it's one thing to install the seatbelts, right? It's a good Mike Fullington's namesake company has been in business for more than 100 years with a solid safety record. What he hasn't seen is a demand for seatbelts.
We look to see if people are wearing them, and they're not.
So, and you can't enforce that?
You can't.
So the bottom line is you can retrofit the bus, you bring the horse to the water, but you can't make it drink. Seatbelts or not, there's no sign of slowdown in the bus industry, or with the people whose job it is to keep up with it.
Every life counts. We have to continue to work to make sure that every company operating a bus, moving passengers, puts safety as their top priority. That's our focus.